You'd see like a kid in the summer covered in friction burns, and you'd just be like, oh, how was Action Park?
Accident Park.
Part of the fun was actually surviving the day.
Traction Park.
The slides were higher, the rides were faster.
Class Action Park.
We got a reputation as being the wildest amusement park in the world.
It's been shut for almost 20 years, and I think no amusement park has caught up to its death toll yet.
If you told somebody about this, it sounds like you're making stuff up.
So Action Park opened in 1978. It was one of the country's first modern water parks, a really experimental place, in many ways ahead of its time. But by the time the park closed in 1996, it developed a reputation for being an extreme place, a dangerous place.
I probably went to Action Park like once every summer. It was sort of the highlight of the summer.
Baby, let me take you where the action's hot. Action Park.
There's nothing like going on a really hot day and just being able to jump around in the water. And it was only later that I realized, a lot of the stuff was kind of dangerous.
The action never stops at Action Park.
The average family you'd see would be like a woman screaming at 4 kids who seemed like they'd just been eating sugar and drinking soda all day, and like a drunk dad with no shirt on.
I'd like to think of Action Park sort of as like my drunk Uncle Andy's backyard.
When you're on the way to Action Park, you're bragging to your brothers and sisters and to your family about how brave you're going to be.
And it's almost like a rite of passage, I think, of growing up in North Jersey.
Action Park just had more extreme rides, and I think they kind of thrived a bit more on that sense that there's a little bit more adventure there than a lot of other parks.
What attracted me to working for Gene was this combination of Walt Disney and P.T. Barnum. Sort of let's do something for everybody, for the family, but let's make it really big.
My father probably should have been born in the 1850s. He was a really very interesting, iconic guy who just loved to have fun. The amusement park he wanted to have was one where people controlled the action. Not where you just sat in a ride and it kind of took you around. He wanted one where you could control how fast you went, how high you went, and that's what he did.
Action Park doesn't strip you down. Action Park lets you soar because you control the action.
Participation rides were enormously appealing to teenagers especially. Nobody was going to tell them what to do at Action Park, and they loved it.
The rides at Action Park were lawless. Like, you could feel that. You could tell that no one particularly cared what you did. One is the Tarzan swing. You'd stand in line for a long time, and you'd be on this like raised wooden dock, and they'd hand you a rope, and then you swung on the rope out over this pool of water.
The thing with the Tarzan swing was that when you got on it, it would then swing in front of the rest of the line.
Some people would go up and like do a backflip off it and get a big cheer. Or some people, would like slip and wipe out, and everybody would just like point and laugh and mock them.
Occasionally and inevitably, you would always get somebody who would either shout something at the line to get the line riled up. I'm sure body parts were shown.
And I remember being a kid, standing on this line watching this ride, and at least 3 or 4 different men would just swing out, get in full view of the line, and just go like, ah, and pull their bathing suits down so you could just see their dicks. And that's a ride.
The Alpine slide was a terrifying thing. It was essentially a giant track to rip people's skin off that was disguised as a children's ride.
I always got a skin burn on the Alpine slide.
If you don't know what the Alpine slide was, it's this long cement track that you'd be on, and this little device with wheels on it.
Every sled seemed to either be broken in a way where you couldn't use the brakes at all, or where it was just locked in the brake position. You're either going to careen down this thing at full speed with no ability to control it, or you're going to be going dreadfully slow, and someone at full speed is going to crash into you from behind. It was by far one of the most dangerous situations I've ever been in my entire life.
You go down a cart and you could determine how fast, and if you went too fast, you could come out.
I was always just, as a kid, kind of in awe of people like kind of flying off of the Alpine slide.
You have to take the ski lift to get up there. So while you're on the Alpine slide, you also have other people on the ski lift just spitting at you the whole time, people trying to hit you with spit. And you know that's true because you tried to hit them with your spit on the way up.
When you got at the top of the Alpine slide, you actually saw photographs of other children who had been maimed with a sign that said, "Keep your arms in, kids," because if there's anything children should be, it's responsible for their own safety.
One of my favorite legends about Action Park is the giant loop-de-loop slide.
The Cannonball Loop was literally just a water slide that at the very end looped, which is almost physically impossible.
And there is no safety whatsoever. You would climb essentially to the top of a building, jump off it, slide down a fast water slide, and then just from the force of your own bones hitting the earth, flip over and come down.
You hit the bottom and your stomach falls out, and then you get all disoriented and you come out and you don't know where you are.
Like, if you go back and look at the picture of the Cannonball Loop slide, it looks photoshopped. Like, it looks unreal.
The urban legend was that they sent like a dummy down to test it, and it came out with like no head.
I used to hear that employees got paid $100 to test it out.
There was an award at some point for anyone that would, you know, go on it as an employee early on.
And if I wasn't around, my father would offer $100 to test out a new ride.
It was, I guess it was $100. It was an award.
People, I think, after a week of it being opened, were just walking away with bloody noses because you'd get to the top part of the loop and just clank your head.
Pretty wild ride. Never quite perfected that one. I think we were open a couple weeks, but it was a little too rough on folks.
It looked like somebody just went like, you know, we should just make this thing that just goes like this. And then they just like traced his finger and used that as like the blueprint.
My father, if he could find a guy with a crazy idea for a ride, he'd hire the guy, even if the guy had never built it before.
And not actually like think about angles or gravity or momentum in any way. We'll just build that thing.
Just about every ride at Action Park, it kind of made you think, what the hell are they thinking?
The action never stops at Action Park.